On this edition of Great Lakes Now, one of the largest fatbergs ever discovered was found in a sewer in our region.
Our particular fatberg was about 19 tons, 100 feet long,
100 feet long?
11 feet wide.
A bald eagle with an ailment that might surprise you. And the century-old roots of Lake Erie's harmful algae blooms.
Great Lakes Now is brought to you by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, Lori and Tim Wadhams, the Richard C. Devereaux Foundation for Energy and Environmental Programs at Detroit Public Television, the Polk Family Fund, Eve and Jerry Young, the Americana Foundation, the Brookby Foundation, and
the Consumers Energy Foundation is committed to serving Michigan, from preserving our state's natural resources and sustaining our future, to continuing business growth, academic achievement, and community involvement. Learn more at consumersenergy.com/foundation.
and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ward Detweiler. Welcome to Great Lakes Now. In recent years, a new enemy has been found lurking in our sewers and haunting our nightmares. Of course, I'm talking about fatbergs. One of the largest fatbergs ever discovered was found in a sewer line just north of Detroit. Detroit Public Television's Will Glover brings us the story.
Our tale begins in Macomb County, Michigan, at the Clintondale Pump Station.
Before we go inside, I have to warn you, this story is disgusting, and I don't like disgusting. So of course, my wonderful coworkers decided I'd be perfect to cover a story about things that we find in the sewer. This is a sewage pump station, and in 2018, they found something big in a sewer not far from here. Will Glover, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm here to meet Macomb County Public Works Commissioner Candace Miller.
A very interesting and pungent place.
Yes,
I
it
guess.
is.
If there's sewer problems, they're her problems.
Let's just cut to the chase. We're here to talk about fatbergs. So what is a fatberg?
Well, a fatberg is something that sometimes sewer systems, they're found in the sewer systems. Macomb County found one made up of greases and oils that people have put down their drain rather than disposing of them properly in their garbage. And our particular fatberg was 19 tons, 100 feet long,
100 feet long?
11 feet wide, and 6 foot tall. That was our fatberg.
That's a gigantic clog, and if it gets too big, it can mean raw sewage backs up into basements or gets released into rivers or lakes. It cost Macomb County $100,000 to remove their fatberg, but then the fatberg got kind of famous.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
With a piece of the fatberg by her side, Commissioner Miller invited the press to come by and see it.
But as I say, we want to use this as a teachable moment if we can, for folks to try to change people's behavior of what they're putting down the sewers.
What behavior does she want you to change? Well, this is a flushable wipe, and Candace Miller wants you to stop flushing things like this down the drain. Because once this gets in the sewer system, it can form what's called a rag ball. And once oil and grease and dirt and trash get caught up in this, it can start to form a gigantic fatberg.
The wipes were the binding agent for the Macomb County fatberg.
How do you get this stuff out of the sewer or out of the water system?
Well, what you can see here is what we call the rake. And so this thing literally goes down very deep into our wet well here, and it is pulling up these wipes, these rags as we call them. And they dump them right into a bin, right? A trash bin here.
No.
A big dumpster.
Oh my goodness. That
And
is
so
terrible.
we get several of these dumpsters a week at this particular facility, just full of these wipes.
It looks foul, but the smell is diabolical. Most of the fatberg is now in a landfill, but some of it is being studied at Wayne State University's Integrative Biosciences Center, where Tracy Baker looks after it.
So you have an actual piece of the fatberg here in this lab, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so were you really excited when you found out you were going to be working and studying a fatberg? Were you like, yay?
I was a little maybe timid at first.
Yeah.
Carol Miller had contacted me asking if I would be interested in studying the fatberg. I had to kind of look up what a fatberg was before I made that decision.
Carol Miller, no relation to Candace Miller, was the driving force behind getting the fatberg into the laboratory.
I'm very interested in what goes through our pipes, so when this huge backup occurred in Macomb County, I thought, wow, this is exactly my sort of stuff. I'm very interested in this, and maybe we can help solve the problem.
Baker, Miller, and a team of students are getting to know the fatberg up close and personal.
So your hands are in the tank, you're
Right.
moving stuff around.
So we're just looking to see what we can find in the fatberg. It's mostly plastic and wipes. We found a bunch of tampon applicators, and we can see like sheets like this, which is just wipes, looks like.
Is there anything in these fatbergs that you guys have pulled out that you're like surprised by? Like, I never thought that would be in a sewer, much less here with me now.
Mustard packets. Yeah.
Mustard packets?
Yeah, it just looks like somebody's trash can.
What are we trying to find out?
We're trying to find out what sort of compounds are included in a fatberg. We want to know a little more about what sort of chemicals are involved in a fatberg and how could those impact us if bypasses occur and the raw sewage goes into the river. And then we drink that water. So what we put into the water eventually comes back into our body. So we'd like to know about what's in those pipes.
Yeah, you just made your job exponentially more important when
There
you
you
put
go.
it that way.
We think that it's probably acting as a sponge because the wipes kind of absorb. So I think that
Right.
it could definitely be concentrating chemicals, and then the bacteria, because it's sitting in sewage for a long amount of time, like the bacteria, many different kinds of bacteria, potentially harmful ones, could be accumulating.
So when you're looking at bacteria, is that like a DNA test? Like you're testing the DNA to see which bacteria, to identify the bacteria?
Exactly, yeah. So we take parts of the fatberg and then we're able to do an extraction. We concentrate it and then do an extraction, and then we do DNA sequencing to look at all the different bacteria that are part of it.
It's 23andMe, but for a fatberg.
Exactly.
Okay.
The research also comes back to the biggest issue concerning this fatberg mess. It's these wipes. When they go down the drain, how do they break down?
This is a wipe that said that it was flushable after 48 hours.
I don't think that's gonna go through.
I don't think so either.
I'm not the smartest man in the world, but
So you can see that is almost fully intact.
yeah. And this is flushable.
This is a flushable wipe, yep. As you can see, didn't break down. And that's basically what we see for almost all of the wipes that we've been looking at.
And giving the wipes more time doesn't seem to help.
This particular wipe has been in this water for over a year.
A year?
And it looks like you just put it in there a minute ago.
It looks brand new.
It looks brand new. So this is, I think, a very vivid demonstration of how these wipes do not degrade.
There are defenders of flushable wipes, which are a worldwide multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry.
The Responsible Flushing Alliance, yes, it's a real thing, it's an industry group, says that it's not flushable wipes that's the problem. It's people flushing things like paper towels, feminine hygiene products, and other non-flushable items down the toilet. But the folks specializing in sewage say you shouldn't flush anything but toilet paper. No wipes of any kind, no matter what they say.
You know, if you pick one of those up in the grocery store and it says flushable, and you're using it, you're thinking, oh, flushable, I'm flushing it, right? I'm gonna flush it down the toilet.
Right.
Must be all right, says so right there, you know, on the packaging. Actually, it's a nationwide problem, and even internationally. In fact, London just had to deal with a big fatberg. New York has a big fatberg. They're around, and it's because of all these wipes.
There's no safe sewer system anywhere.
No, and we're doing it to ourselves. I think the Congress should be passing some legislation that outlaws them from packaging with those words on there, that they're flushable. They should say non-flushable, non-biodegradable. And other than that, if they just did that, that would be fine.
For more about fatbergs, visit us at greatlakesnow.org. A bald eagle is receiving treatment at a rehab facility in Wisconsin after it was seen acting strangely in a park on the shores of Green Bay. The source of his problems may surprise you.
The story begins at John Hennis Park in Menominee, Michigan, where Heather Pearson says she saw a bald eagle.
It just kind of swooped down and it was flying really low. I've never seen anything like that before. And then it landed and it was kind of wobbling around walking. First we were just in awe that there was an eagle right there because, you know, you never see one that close.
Heather thought the eagle's behavior was unusual. And when it landed in a nearby tree, she could see something was wrong.
He was right on that one right there. and I looked up and it was hanging upside down by 2 legs, and it was just weird. Never seen anything like that before.
After Heather posted her pictures on social media, Nick Lukowski got a call from his wife.
She sent me a text message and said, there's an eagle stuck in a tree at Hennis Park. Somebody posted it online on Facebook. You're an animal whisperer. Can you go save it?
Nick says when he arrived at the park, the eagle was still upside down. As he climbed his ladder to get a closer look, the eagle tumbled out of the tree.
Right here is approximately where it kind of was just poking its head out of the trees. It kind of fluttered down, definitely didn't fly, and so I knew something was wrong with it when it didn't just fly. It kind of fell, flapped its wings, and then landed on the ground. And then it didn't really try running away immediately.
After seeing the eagle, Nick got a little concerned about what he was doing.
I know it is a federally protected bird. I can't just grab an eagle and put it in my car.
He made a few calls and reached Jerry Maynard at the Chocolate Raptor Center in Marquette, Michigan. Jerry said it was legal for Nick to capture the eagle if it's in distress. And he said he'd pick the bird up from Nick the next day. Nick says he then called his brother for help.
I contacted my brother, who happened to be eating dinner. I was like, you want to help me catch a bald eagle? And I could hear over the phone him tell his children and his wife, hey, we're done eating. It's time to go catch a bald eagle.
They gathered up some rescue gear, mostly blankets and a big plastic tub. And family members took cell phone video from a safe distance.
This tree that's kind of uprooted is where we had kind of cornered it, and we're able to, wrap a blanket around it and then grab it and put it in the bin.
Step to the side. Here, push it forward more. There's more in there.
They put the eagle in a dog kennel with an improvised roof of blankets and tarps, and the bird stayed there overnight. In the morning, help was on the way. Jerry Maynard drove 120 miles down from Marquette and in sandals and shorts scooped up the eagle and took it back to Chocolate Raptor Center, a rehabilitation facility for sick, injured, and orphaned birds of prey.
This was the 47th eagle that we've rescued.
Experts there care for birds like peregrine falcons, red-tailed hawks, American kestrels, and bald eagles. Maynard is the center's co-founder and co-director. He and a veterinarian took a look at their new patient.
And it was very weak, emaciated, dehydrated, and it was very depressed, we call it. Those are all symptoms of either West Nile virus or lead poisoning.
Special permits are required to rehabilitate eagles, and Chocolate Raptor Center didn't have them. So after 2 days, the bird was brought to Mark Naniot at Wild Instincts in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Wild Instincts has cared for all kinds of creatures, including everything from bear cubs to barn owls to squirrels. This year alone, they've handled over 1,000 animals from more than 100 different species. This is where they discovered what was really wrong with the eagle: lead poisoning. They tested a sample of the eagle's blood. Any reading over 10 picograms per deciliter is considered toxic for bald eagles, but this bird's blood was much higher than that.
Lead levels were pretty much off the charts. Our analyzer goes up to 65, and the lead levels were over 65, so basically it just says high. So when they get to be at that point, probably about 5% of those survive.
But how does a bald eagle end up with that much lead in its blood? Jerry Maynard thinks he knows the source.
Fishing tackle, because this bird was observed hunting and catching fish in Lake Michigan, eating the fish.
When eagles eat fish, they can ingest lead sinkers and other tackle that the fish may have eaten. Another source of lead poisoning is lead bullets or shot used by hunters. Lead projectiles fragment when they hit, and when eagles scavenge carcasses or so-called gut piles left by hunters, they can ingest those lead fragments. Lead poisoning in eagles is surprisingly common. The University of Minnesota found elevated lead levels in 90% of the bald eagles it treated each year. 20 to 25% have high enough levels to be diagnosed with clinical lead poisoning.
And so people don't realize it just takes a tiny, tiny bit of lead to kill an eagle. It's a very serious problem. It's a continuing problem, and we just like to tell all people all our hunting friends, get the lead out.
Anglers can use non-poisonous fishing tackle made of tin, bismuth, steel, or tungsten. And hunters have alternatives to lead too. Copper and copper alloy bullets don't leave toxic fragments like lead does. Hunters may worry that the alternatives are less effective or humane than lead. But Maynard says lead has been federally banned for waterfowl hunting since 1991.
Virtually all the waterfowl shot is steel shot, and everybody's enjoying their hunting, and that's fine.
And you can see the staining on his tail feathers, and that's one of the indicators of lead.
Whatever the source, once an eagle or a person ingests lead, it isn't easy to get it out. At Wild Instincts, Mark Naniot has been treating the bald eagle found in Hennis Park. So far, the eagle has received 36 chelation treatments, which helps the eagle pass the lead through its urine. But that may not be enough.
And the problem is, even if we get the lead out of the system, a lot of times there's central nervous system damage, kidney, liver damage, and so it's definitely not out of the woods yet.
The chelation treatments also dehydrate the eagle, so Mark has been preparing a high-protein, high-vitamin slurry that keeps the eagle hydrated and nourished. Even so, there's no guarantee the eagle will recover enough to return to the wild.
So at this point, we're tweezer feeding, tube feeding, doing sub-Q injections to keep the hydration levels up. And so until it starts eating on its own and doing a little bit better, until we get it out in the flight cage, we won't really know.
As for this eagle's future, the therapy has been working. Lead levels have dropped from over 65 to 4.1. It's progress, but only time will tell. The eagle's health could deteriorate to the point where it would need to be euthanized, or it could remain too weak to be re-released and spend the rest of its life in captivity. But many are hoping the eagle recovers enough to return to the wild.
If it is releasable, we will go down and get him, take him back to Menominee, and release him there where we found him.
Sounds like he's doing pretty good. Fingers crossed.
Since this story was shot, the eagle's condition has improved, and it's now flying and eating on its own. We'll have updates at greatlakesnow.org. In western Lake Erie, huge algae blooms have become a perennial problem, and the effects can be severe. But efforts are underway to restore lost wetlands and shrink or prevent future blooms. From Toledo, partner station WGTE brings us the story.
The harmful algal bloom of 2014 left 500,000 people in the Toledo area without drinking water for 3 days. Without warning, the water coming out of the faucets and shower heads for more than 500,000 people was unusable, even for washing or brushing teeth. Shelves in local grocery stores were ransacked, and people went out of the region in droves searching for water. Although the water has since been deemed drinkable, the harmful algal bloom returns every year. In 2019, the algal bloom grew to 620 square miles by mid-August. Its major cause, as we now know, is excessive nutrient runoff, mainly phosphorus and nitrogen from agriculture fields or wastewater. But the story of this modern crisis goes back tens of thousands of years. Meet Clint Mauck, a local author and historian of the Northwest Ohio region.
If you go back in time, I mean way back, this area was covered by 2 miles of glacial ice. And when it finally melted, oceans rose back up to the levels that we know them today and left a lot of strange things, and including the Great Lakes. Beside the Great Lakes was this place called the Great Black Swamp. But it was an absolute terrifying wilderness that blocked out this whole section of Northwest Ohio. Water and soft mud, and you couldn't drive a wagon through it, and the horses would get stuck up to their bellies in soft mud.
The Great Black Swamp was a nuisance, so starting in the mid-1800s, almost 1 million acres of it were drained to create productive farmland. In a few decades, the region was transformed.
The remnants are ditches. I mean, Wood County still got 3,000 miles of ditches that they maintain. Thousands of miles of ditches to get the water out, which eventually, of course, gathered through here and there and ended up in Lake Erie, which it still does today. And that's part of the problem.
When the Great Black Swamp was drained, the watershed lost a valuable filter, and the fertilizer used on Northwest Ohio farms had a straighter shot into Lake Erie. Today, 4.5 million acres of agricultural land drain into the Maumee River and then into Lake Erie. The runoff contains nitrogen and phosphorus, and when those nutrients reach high concentrations in the lake, they don't feed crops. They feed a type of harmful bacteria called microcystis, and that's what caused the 2014 water crisis. Todd Crail is a lecturer of environmental sciences at the University of Toledo.
In 2014, we woke up in August one morning and we were told we couldn't drink our water. The reason we couldn't drink the water is because of microcystis. And under certain conditions, the microcystis will become extremely abundant. In certain circumstances, produces a lot of toxin called microcystin, which will wreck your liver with a very small concentration in parts per billion.
With his students, Crail conducts field research, propagating native plants on the campus grounds and in city roundabouts. Their goal is to rebuild the natural filter of the Black Swamp one plot at a time, thereby reducing the amount of nutrient runoff feeding the algae bloom.
Wetlands are important in Ohio because they are what I call the liver of the landscape. When you have a healthy amount of wetlands, they will fix any changes, they'll help balance the load, they'll help make things livable. The nitrogen goes into a wetland, and if the conditions are right, particularly having water in the summertime, we begin a process called denitrification that will convert nitrate or ammonia molecules of nitrogen into nitrogen gas and send them off into the atmospheric pool, which disallows these blooms to happen.
Ohio farmers have worked to reduce fertilizer runoff, but it's still a problem, especially during years with heavy rainfall. To fight the algal blooms, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has called for a 40% reduction in total phosphorus entering the lake through the Maumee River. The region's biggest obstacle? The century-old drainage system that turned the Black Swamp from a natural water filter into an agricultural powerhouse. Of course, the region needs productive farms and a healthy lake. So farmers and conservationists from the Black Swamp Conservancy and the Nature Conservancy are turning key plots of land back into wetlands.
The Black Swamp Conservancy is a land trust. Our mission is to protect natural habitats and family farms for the benefit of future generations. So we've protected over 17,500 acres in a 16-county area here in Northwest Ohio. That includes family farms. It also includes wetlands, prairies, savanna habitats. The other thing we do is wetland restoration, and we've really been doing that in earnest for about the last 6 or 7 years, where we're selecting areas very strategically to have an impact on wildlife species and water quality, and returning them to wetland habitats. You know, if we were to restore 1% back, we would see a lot more of what we call ecosystem service or ecosystem function, where those wetlands would have an opportunity to treat water before it gets into the Maumee River and eventually Lake Erie, and it would certainly help to curtail the toxic algal bloom issues we've been having.
We're trying to find public money to do restoration projects, to protect land and to restore it. We work with the partners at all the other conservation groups, whether it's the DNR or the Toledo Metro Parks or Olander Park System, who are the local conservation entities, so that we can all do things a little more efficiently. We do prescribed burning out in our natural areas to revitalize our prairies and savannas, and we're collecting native seeds and propagating those because we have such small remnants of our habitat left that finding the proper species to put back out on the landscape as we're reclaiming it has been really difficult. So we work together on that. We're removing invasive species, a lot of invasive plant species that will take over the landscape at the exclusion of all our rare native plants and animals.
I think it is important to look back at our history and to look at the engineering feats that we accomplished. We've gone to the moon, we've built skyscrapers. And it's through that intelligence and it's through that capacity that we are going to be able to restore our natural systems and to live and to coexist with the natural community.
Thanks for watching. For more on these stories and the Great Lakes in general, visit greatlakesnow.org. When you get there, please follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our newsletter. See you out on the lakes.
Great Lakes Now is brought to you by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, Lori and Tim Wadhams, the Richard C. Devereaux Foundation for Energy and Environmental Programs at Detroit Public Television, the Polk Family Fund, Eve and Jerry Young, the Americana Foundation, the Brookby Foundation, and
The Consumers Energy Foundation is committed to serving Michigan, from preserving our state's natural resources and sustaining our future, to continuing business growth, academic achievement, and community involvement. Learn more at consumersenergy.com/foundation.
and viewers like you. Thank you.